Okay.
Okay, this is the chair bringing to order the Board of Assessors meeting for July 29th of 2020. Present are Barry Seaver, Frank Mastro, Brian Ware, Fal Mehta. Also attending Sean Mulholland, Tina Stearns. Have everybody?
And
and Rick and Rick, of course. Sorry, Rick.
I believe that everybody has to state whether anybody's present in the room.
Yep, Barry Seaver, I'm present.
Frank Mastro, present.
Brian Ware, present.
Jay Hutchins, present.
Present.
And is anybody in any of the rooms with you?
No.
Or are you alone?
I'm alone.
Jay is alone.
Barry,
Brian is alone.
Frank's alone.
Okay, if we're ready to move forward.
I do have to make the statement first.
Okay.
Due to the current situation with the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting is being held virtually in accordance with RSA 91A and the Governor's Emergency Order number 12. The public is allowed to participate through Microsoft Teams or by phone. Public member participating by phone would need to press *6 in order to be recognized and speak. I think we've covered all the bases.
Thank you, Rick. So in accordance with Rick's request, we're going to move to item 4G, which is the acceptance of the Governor's Emergency Order number 56 regarding late payment of applications. The emergency order allows municipalities to adjust the interest rate set in statute at 8% on late payments of the July 2020 tax bill. This applies to any unpaid bill between July 2nd, 2020 and August 2nd, 2020. We have a motion to accept that.
Frank moved the motion.
Barry seconds it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Brian,
We need to hold
I
off
think you
on
have to
that.
do a roll call.
Hold on. Roll
Hold
call. Okay. All right.
Sean, do you want to speak to this?
Yes, one of the applications
Can
that
I-
you have in front of you for
Can I say
Coco.
something? Hello, this is Fal. If you are not speaking, can you mute your microphone? There's so much disturbance. I can't hear anything.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of background noise from somebody.
All right, so the one of the applicants you have in front of you, I received a call from Hans Copeland, who's one of the co-owners of the Powerhouse Mall, and they made the request that they not have to pay anything until the end of the period, which would be April 30th of 2021. So the discussion I had with him is that, you know, that was not what we had originally envisioned. We were looking at having flat payments for the most part. Flat payments for the most part, and we would accept on a limited basis. There may be some restaurants or other businesses that needed a 90-day breather in which they would make no payments, but then they would have to pick up payments, and they would be equal installments for the rest of the period. And also when the second bill came in, if a payment plan was approved by the Board of Assessors, that we would simply add on the additional amounts for that second half tax bill. That was the original concept. And Hans said, well, you know, our business is hurting, and we did not receive any rent from our tenants when there was a shutdown as a result of the order issued by the state governor. And there's I'm going to mute Barry again. That's where the disturbance is coming from. The money was coming in, and the provisions of their contract allowed the tenants not to pay when they were shut down by means of government. So what he has done subsequent to that is that they have reopened, but he is only charging them half rent, at least for now, for the next couple of months. And what he has asked is that there be no payments be made until April 30th. I said, I can relay that to the Board of Assessors. I would suggest that you tell them that yourself, and I offered to provide him the link. He chose not to do that. He was somewhat upset. I said, because we have not offered that to any of the other businesses. In fact, the other businesses are making basically flat payments, equal installments each month, and 99% of the taxpayers have actually paid their tax bill on time for the first half tax bill. I said, it's up to them what they choose to do. I said, but they are going to have to be fair, and they're going to have to be consistent, because when others ask for a similar dispensation, they're either going to have to provide that if they provide it to you. We may get another rash of these applications when the fall tax bill comes out. So that's something you folks have to decide what you're going to do. You have a number of options in front of you. You could simply deny the request. You could say, well, we'll give you a 90-day grace period on when you pay no taxes at all, and then you make equal installments after that. You could do exactly what the applicant has asked you to do and allow them not to make any payments at all until April 30th at the 1% interest rate. So that is certainly the full realm of options that you have in front of you. But what I would suggest to you is whatever you do, you're going to be setting a precedent. You need to think about how you're going to deal with potential future applications that may come in when we get the second half tax bill. If 50% of the people, and it's probably very unlikely, but if we have a COVID-19 outbreak around here and we have a further shutdown and we get 50% of the taxpayers that say, well, we don't want to make any payments till April 30th, we're going to have some serious problems in terms of revenue for the city, what we have to pay the county in December, and our installments we have to make to the school district. And we don't have that kind of cash flow other than taxes coming in to do that. So that's just something that you need to consider.
Well, this is Jay. For my part, I think that I prefer to defer to your administrative decision regarding this, and everybody gets treated the same way. You understand mechanically how things operate, what the financial needs are, and we have to treat everybody equally. So if you've got a set of guidelines in place, my personal thought would be to go with that and leave it alone. Who else would like to weigh in?
This is Frank. I hear what you're saying, but there's just something that's bothering me about it. That we can take whatever the administration says is what they're, what the plan will be, but I think we at least have to vote on that plan in order to make sure it stays legal.
Well, is the board within its authority to grant the administration the flexibility to make those decisions? In other words, we delegate that responsibility to them? Is that not within our authority?
It is not. The sole authority rests with the Board of Assessors. We had developed what I call draft guidance, the 1% interest rate. First of all, you don't have to issue any emergency. You don't have to agree with the emergency order at all. You don't have to offer any tax payment plans whatsoever. You can decide what the interest rate is. You can decide whether or not you want to take in previous tax years. We highly suggest you don't do that, but you do have that authority. The emergency order allows you to do that. And that's not what we put in the application for people, but you can choose to do that. But you cannot delegate that responsibility to me. It's solely within your realm. All I can do is provide suggestions. And the suggestions and the guidance we were talking to residents and taxpayers was that, one, if you wanted to ask for a 90-day grace period so that you could catch your breath and bring in some revenue to pay your bills, we thought that was reasonable. And then flat payments so the city is still getting money in, we thought that was reasonable. But it's not our decision. It is the Board of Assessors who makes that decision ultimately.
Sean, this is Pal. I have a question. When you say 90-day grace period, are you asking or are you saying that in that 90-day grace period, there is no payment made to the city?
Right, and the rationale behind that was we had some restaurants that were shut down completely. They brought in no revenue whatsoever, and it was going to take them a while to get caught back up to bring in sufficient revenue to be able to pay their taxes. We wanted to give them that opportunity to do that. That was our thought behind that. And again, we don't, it's just a recommendation from us.
So when you say 90-day grace period and after that, so after that, do they make up the payment or you forget about it?
No, we don't forget about it because that would be an abatement and that's only within your authority. They would have to make the full payment, but they would make it on equal installments after that, between that period of time and April 30th or some shorter period that they may need.
So what is the owner of the plaza asking for us to do?
He doesn't want to make any payments whatsoever until April 30th of 2021. Now, his tax bill was $132,000. He paid $99,000 already. He just wants to be able to defer the other $32,000 until April 30th of 2021.
So when somebody applies for that, I don't know what you call it, apply for that tax not paying for 90 days or whatever, what kind of proof do they have to provide?
None, because that would make it very complicated, because then you'd have to determine what criteria are going to be. If you felt that you're impacted by COVID-19, you could simply make the request. Otherwise, it would be exceptionally complicated to try to develop criteria by which you make that assessment for each person.
The reason why I ask this, Sean, is that anybody can come and say, I can't make any payment. Now, everybody's at a different stage. The plaza has multiple shops. It's not just restaurant. It's not, I mean, it has LLB, it has a lot of stuff that are open and paying rent. So I'm just trying to understand, if we allow this, then we are going to have so many applications because nothing is going to stay quiet in Lebanon. Everybody's going to know about this. I just worry about the future of the city of the Lebanon if we end up having nothing.
Well, first of all, it only applies for the state of emergency is in effect. And it only applies, and our criteria was for the first half tax bill of this year and the second half tax bill, and that is it. And the first half tax bill, 99% of the taxpayers have already paid. So we have 99% of the revenue that's due the city already. So for the first half, it's the impact is the applications you see in front of you, basically, and a couple of others. In terms of the second half tax bill, that's of course a different story. And we won't know until the tax rate is set and what the circumstances are in November when that tax bill comes out. But either way, we're still going to be getting revenue from people because they're making those payments. Money is still coming into the city. People still have to pay. They're going to pay a 1% interest rate on top of that too. So for those people who can pay their taxes, it's in their best interest to do so. Otherwise, they're going to be still accruing interest at 1% instead of the 8%. So it isn't a free ride.
If they've already, if this particular, this is Jay again, if they've already made some payment towards their bill, is there any reason why that can't be applied towards their towards their equal installments?
You can certainly look at it that way if that's how you choose to do that. And that's an argument that you can make when somebody else comes in and tries to do the same thing and they haven't paid anything. You can say, well, in the case of the Powerhouse Mall, they already paid 2/3 of that bill, or a good portion of it, 99,000 of it, and they only have the 33,000 or 32,000 remaining.
This is Barry. Can it be as a 2/3 payment and then the third period? As far as payments?
You certainly could. They, like I said, they already paid 99,000. You could say, well, we're going to give you the rest of that time to pay that until the 30th when the lien is due.
No, I was asking as far as people coming in from this day forward. They owed 100,000, but they paid 75. Can we make that the rule? If you paid for 2/3, we could take the other third in payments or installments.
You could, but that's going to be challenging for some businesses to be able to come up with all of that right away, especially if you have another shutdown.
I think,
think-
the thing that this is Sean. I think the thing that I am worried about is if you are proposing this 90-day and then after that equal amount of payment with the 1%. I just think that we should be consistent with that 90-day. If we start to make this sort of exception, then it's going to be really hard for us to decide who do we allow till April 30th versus somebody says, I want to do it till January end. I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, Jay.
Well, how do you administer, Sean? How do you administer that 90-day grace period?
So 90 days from the date that the taxes were due, they would have that period by which they don't make any installments at all. At the end of that 90-day period, they'd have to stop making equal installments on the amount that is still due the city, whatever that might be.
Well, that seems reasonable enough, and it seems administratively doable. I think that making the rule that payments that have already been made can be applied towards those. Barry, can you mute again? I think you're probably on a speaker or something. Payments that have already been made can be applied towards the installments. I think that that's fair and reasonable, and I think it limits the application to, just a few people probably, and not across the board.
If I can interject just for a sec, excuse me. This is Tina. Our tax collector did speak also with HOCO, and what I'm thinking that they're trying to do is instead of paying the 8% interest that everyone else is going to have to pay that hasn't paid the full amount, they want to enter into this payment plan, which really isn't a payment plan because they're not going to make a payment until the end of April, but they're only going to be charged 1% as opposed to 8%.
Yeah, well, we can't pick and choose, who's going to get, different kind of agreements. I mean, we got to do something that's across the board. And that may not please any particular applicant, but I think that in order to be fair and equitable, we have to treat everybody the same. So we have to come up with a solution that's applicable to everybody.
And that's why we provided, basically, that's why we looked at the two options. Either you make flat payments on the taxes that are owed, equal installments, or you get a 90-day grace period, and after that you make equal installments. That allows those that were hit hard a 90-day period by which they can catch their breath and bring in some revenue. And those were the two mechanisms we were looking at. It simplifies it considerably, and if you treat everybody the same way, you're going to be in a much better spot. When you start to make variations of that, that's when it gets complicated, and you're going to have to use that criteria every time with every other applicant, should there be more of them in the future.
Yeah.
This is Rick. So if everybody has the spreadsheet in front of them, if everybody has a spreadsheet in front of them, you'll see that there are 6 applicants, and 5 have monthly payment plan requests. It's only the HOCO property that wants to pay at the end of the tax year, basically.
Well, I would recommend that we deny that. This is Jay. We'll need a motion from somebody on the board.
Well, you already have the motion from the previous motion that I think would probably have to be withdrawn. I think Frank made that motion. Does that have to be withdrawn?
No,
Well, I don't know why that needs to be withdrawn. I mean, I think maybe now an addendum to the motion can be that the 90-day grace period and then the equal installments that have been discussed, if we want more specificity. But I think the board is, I'll ask the board if they're in agreement with that approach.
so John, you're talking, this is Frank, so you're talking that we would give this powerhouse 90 days and probably anybody else 90 days to at least accumulate some cash and then pay monthly or pay quarterly?
Monthly. That way where the city is getting in revenue to pay its bills, pay the school, and pay the county. These longer periods of time, we don't get that cash flow becomes an issue eventually.
Okay. That sounds reasonable.
And if they don't make the payment plan, remember, all of it reverts back to the 8%. That's part of the agreement on the
Yeah.
application. So you basically offer them two options, and most of them are not really interested. They don't need a 90-day option. They're willing to pay equal installments now as the money's coming in, because again, it saves them on the interest.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes more sense. Even though it's 1%, it's still interest. So just back to the POCO one before you move on this. I would suggest if you don't want to agree to the terms they've proposed, is you deny that, but you do offer the other one, a 90-day and equal installments after that. That gives us time to present that to him, and that way you have already voted on that, because you're not going to meet again for a while. And he only has until, I think it's August 5th, and the 8% interest rate kicks in. So as long as he agrees with that plan, then he won't suffer an 8% interest.
Well, and what about applying what he's already paid towards the equal installments?
If you choose to do that, you could do that. That will complicate things again, because I talked about two different options. That would be a third. You just have to, if that's what you want to do, I can do
Well,
that.
I guess the equal installments are only on $32,000, so it's not
Right.
like they seem to be too burdensome. All right, we'll leave that
I
out.
think
of
I
it.
agree with this is Fal. I think I agree with the two options. The one that 90-day and then equal installments. And I think what you said, Sean, makes complete sense. If you defer on that, then you fall back to the 8% interest.
He'd much rather have that than nothing, right? I'm sure. He'd much go along with a plan where he's got the 90 days, and 30 of those are already gone by pretty much. He'll have another 60, and that gives him a lot more options than reverting to the 8% interest, which would be occurring.
Correct. And I think that is fair to everybody, so that we are sticking with two options. They can pick and choose whichever one is preferable. But I think allowing an exception for however much you paid, and then it just makes it so complicated, and then there's so much calculations it's going to happen individually.
So do we need a motion to deny the request? Is that something you're looking for, Sean?
I think the best thing to do is to approve the other four requests as they are, and then deal with this one as a separate vote. And then you would deny his request and authorize a 90-day grace period, and then a equal installment plan after that if the applicant agrees to it. And that will take care of it.
All right. Ooh, somebody make that as a motion.
This is Fal. I can make a motion for the other four to approve.
I believe it's 5 others, correct, Tina?
That is
Yeah.
5.
That's correct. We have Woodrow has 2 properties.
This is Barry. I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Do we need a roll call for that?
Yes.
All right.
Aye.
Barry, is your aye?
Yep.
Frank?
Yes.
Fal?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
And then there are nobody, and Jay is in favor as well, so it's unanimous. So the second motion is with respect to the 6th applicant.
It would say something like this, that the Board of Assessors denies the payment plan application of HOCO and does approve a 90-day grace period beginning at the period of time the taxes are due, and an equal installment plan until April 30th if the applicant agrees. So that would be your motion, I would suggest.
So will somebody sign on as that motion without having to repeat it?
I move to accept that motion.
Is that Barry?
Second, Frank seconds.
Who
The
made the
motion was
motion? Was
made-
it Barry?
I made the motion to accept what,
You
John
did, Barry. All right. Seconded by Frank?
Yes,
Okay. Let's call a roll call. Frank,
yes,
Fal,
Yes.
Barry,
yes,
Brian,
Yes,
Jay votes yes. So that's unanimous. You need anything else from us with respect to this particular issue?
I don't believe so, and I think I'll leave your meeting because you don't need me for anything else, and I'll let Rick take it from here.
Well, thank you,
Yep.
Sean. I appreciate your help.
All right.
Hey,
have a
I'm
good day.
signing off also. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Tina.
Thank you, Sean.
Bye, Tina. Okay. So now we move to the acceptance of the minutes from the March 11th meeting. Do we have a motion to accept that as presented?
This is Fallon. Yes, I accept the motion.
Do we have a second?
Barry, I accept.
Accepted by Barry. Now, do we need a roll call for all of these or just that one?
I think we need a roll call for all of them.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
my lord. Frank,
yes,
Brian,
Yes,
Fal,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes,
Jay votes yes, unanimous. Minutes are accepted. We'll move on to the abatement applications. For map lot 125/15, the assessor recommends approval on the basis of cosmetic and structural deficiencies to reduce the assessed value from 96,000 to, is it 50,000, Rick?
Yes, 50,000.
Missing a zero, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
50,000. Do we have a motion? And
Frank moves,
Frank moves.
this is Brian. I second.
Any discussion on this matter? If not,
Hi,
Go ahead.
this is Fal. Rick, can you just explain that a little bit more?
On my recommendation?
Yes, please.
Sure. This property is on Eastman Hill Road, and the building, the house is dilapidated. It's in very rough shape. The buyer purchased the property for $57,000 last September. They really only paid for the land. They're going to tear the building down. So what I did was I reduced the value on the building. I think if I remember correctly, I reduced the value on the building, on the house, to close to $0. So the 50,000 is really just the land value.
Hey, Rick, this is Brian. Does that mean in a year's time, we're going to go back and take a look at the property one more time to see whether the gentleman's actually started his building?
Yes, we'll be going out next spring. If they pull a permit, a building permit, we'll go out to see what they've done to the property.
this is Frank, a question, is anybody living in this building?
No, it's been vacant for a number of years. And some
Okay.
of you might be familiar with the property. If you're going up Eastman Hill, you get up toward the top of the hill. It's a brown house set down a little bit below the road, sort of a chalet style house just below the road. You can see it from the road.
So basically that has been just purchased for a land and they're trying to build a house over there. Okay.
Right. They'll tear down the existing structure. I hate to say it's a house. I mean, it was built as a house, but it's really in tough shape now. So they'll tear down the existing structure if they haven't already started and build a new house there.
Okay, thank you, Rick.
Yep.
Any other discussion? If not, we'll go through the roll call. Fal,
Approve, yes.
Brian,
Yes,
Frank,
Yes,
Barry?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, unanimously. Approve that. For the next one is map lot 82-1, recommendation to approve on the basis of the quality rating being reduced from an A+ to an A- and a reduction in the assessed value from 893,350 to 765,150.
I can give a little background on this. I went out to the property after the owner applied for the abatement application. The biggest issue on this was the quality rating for the house, and I reduced that, as it says in the notes here, from A+ to an A- grade. And this has been consistent. We've done this to a number of properties in town over the years. I don't know how to explain it, but essentially a lot of properties were graded too high for the actual construction quality. It probably worked many years ago with the system that was the software system, the assessing software system that we had at the time. But with the new software system, we really need to reduce that quality rating in order for the value to fall where it should be. So that was the biggest issue. I did make some other changes as well, but that was the biggest issue. It was just changing that grade to where it should be. And that lowering of the grade provides a more consistent quality rating compared to the neighboring properties.
Hey, Rick, this is Brian. So
Yep.
did you actually look at the adjoining properties to make sure that we're consistent?
Yes, I did. I've been in a number of the properties over the years, and then I reviewed those properties and other neighboring properties when I was working on this abatement application. I wanted to make sure that the regrading of the quality rating was consistent and appropriate.
Okay.
Do we have a motion to approve based upon the assessor's recommendation?
This is Brian, and I move that we approve the assessor's recommendation.
Barry, I'll second that.
Roll call, Fal,
Yes, I approve that.
Brian,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes,
Barry.
Yeah.
Jay votes yes, it's unanimous. Map lot 92-135. The assessor recommends approval based on the necessary adjustments to the structure for the condition and reduces the assessed value from 201,700 to 140,000.
This was another property that was in very bad shape. This structure is salvageable, but the buyer, Lou Dursky, gutted the building right down to the frame. We didn't have it. It had been a number of years since we've been in the property inside the house. So we didn't know the exact condition of the property. I don't remember now what we had on it was fair or average condition, but it was even in worse condition than even fair. All he did was salvage the frame. So we had to reduce the condition rating from what we had down to poor condition.
are they gonna try and restore it? This is Frank.
Yeah, that's why he gutted it. He's restoring it.
Okay,
So that'll increase the tax value of property.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go back out next year to see what he's done to the property.
This is Barry. I move to accept the recommendation.
This is Brian, I second.
We'll call the roll. Fal,
Yes, approve that.
Brian,
Yes.
Frank,
yes,
Barry,
Yes.
Jay, yes, unanimously approve. Map lot 78/31. Recommend approval of the application due to the dwelling needing extensive renovations and a reduction from 126,000 to 75,700.
And this is a situation very similar to the prior one, another property that needed extensive repairs. It had been a number of years since we've been in it. So I'm recommending reducing the assessed value based on the condition it was in.
Hi, this is Brian.
This is Frank. This is Frank. Is the building habitable, or are they just going to make changes?
He was going to make extensive changes. I don't know if he'd be gutting it down to the frame like Lou Dursky's property, but it was going to need extensive work. I don't recall that he had started the work yet when he filed the abatement application. But he probably has by now. We haven't been out there lately. Yeah, I'm sure he started the work by now.
Do you know if this is like an arm's length transaction, or is there some sort of family or friend relationship here?
I don't recall now. Let's see if I can find it. 831. My recommended value, the 75,700, is still well above what they paid for it. They paid 40,500 for the property. That was estate sale. The owner had passed away. So it's not, the $40,000 purchase isn't really an arm's length transaction.
Can we identify the source of that noise?
This is Barry. My mic's off.
I don't know where that was coming from. So do we have a motion?
It was
to-
probably mine, Jay.
Ah.
This is probably mine. They're doing the construction right in front of my house. That's the Prospect Hill Road. So it's crazy.
How fun is that? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve based upon the assessor's recommendation?
This is Barry. I move to approve the approval.
Frank seconds.
The roll call. Val,
Yes. Approval.
Brian,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Jay is yes. It is approved unanimously. Map lot 82/21. Recommended approval based upon needed repairs from $645,740 to $511,450 under current use.
Yeah, this is another property that was in need of repairs, nowhere near as badly as the prior to. But the buyers knew going into the purchase of the property back in September that some work was needed. I had not been personally been inside the property, but Marlene Jordan, my clerk, did the sale inspection, and she confirmed that there were repairs needed to the property. It wasn't a lot of major stuff. There was some rot in a few places, and there was some cosmetic work that had to be done. The property owners provided photographs with their abatement application that showed what had to be done, and Marlene confirmed those repairs that needed to be done.
And those repairs will bring the value up to what? Back to the $637 that they originally paid?
Well, it'll be back probably to that number or higher, depending on what they do. And we're also doing the revaluation. So we're bringing all of our values up to 2020 values. So a year from now, it'll probably be closer to mid to upper 600s at least in value.
Mm-hmm.
And
Any
keep
other
in mind that keep in mind that the $511,450 that I'm recommending is with the current use value reduction applied. I can tell you what the market value would be. That is 82.21. So the market value would be $539,300.
If there are no more questions or comments, does somebody would like to make a
I've got
motion
a
to approve
question.
as recommended? Go ahead.
This is Brian. I just think it's quite a disparity, between looking what they paid and what they're asking for now. What is it, 20%, 25%?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that they probably went in there and they had a building inspector look it over. So, I'm thinking we're being pretty generous if we let them go down to $511,000.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's the equivalent of 539, which is still a $100,000 difference.
Yeah, can't account for buyer's reasoning. And my notes on the property, I wrote, based on notes from the sale visit, which Marlene did, and the photos provided by the property owner, the house appears to have structural issues, perhaps shifting on the hillside or settling. And I recall now seeing the photographs, and Marlene confirmed it, that there were walls and floors that were separating, that cabinets were pulling away from the wall. And that's from the shifting. So I changed the construction quality, not due to that, but I changed the construction quality from a B+ to a B- to be more consistent with the quality ratings in the neighborhood. It says here, interior finish is low grade. And I added 20% functional adjustment to reflect structural issues. So that's the 20% that you mentioned, Jay. And then once they make those repairs, then we'll bring the values back up to at least where they are now, where it is now, or where it was.
Any other questions or comments?
So they didn't have an inspection done before they purchased the property?
I don't remember now if they did or not.
Rick, this is Pal. Do you know, so when did they purchase the property?
They purchased the property,
September.
September 25th, 2019.
Okay. So they purchased the property. They are living in the house now?
Yes.
Okay, so basically what has happened is they purchased the property, say, for 500 something, and now the valuation, when you did the valuation, it went down due to the fact that there was a substantial I guess the building had suffered some things, but it was not like that before. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, they paid $637,000 for the property. It was
Wow.
assessed for, without the current use, it was assessed for $673,000. So a little bit more than they paid for it. They filed the abatement application because of the repairs. And I recall now speaking to the owner, and they were aware of some of the issues. So I don't think they had the home inspection done. They were aware of some of the issues, but they found more as they started digging into it. And that's when they discovered that things were shifting. I've got the notes here from Marlene when she went out to the property. Oh, wait, here we go. Home inspection revealed that it needed a new junction box for the septic system and other various deficiencies. Poor insulation, pool was leaning, the above ground pool was leaning, the decking was rotted, carpets need replacing, there was some water damage on the ceilings, furnace need to be replaced, chimney liner needs replacement, some switch covers missing, doors don't shut, roof needs to be replaced, window springs failed, vinyl peeling off the kitchen cabinets.
And they bought it anyways for that value, $637,000.
Yeah,
All those problems, and now they want $100 and something thousand reduction on the value for tax reasons.
yeah, right.
I think I agree with you, Brian.
This is Brian. I can see going 100% valuation, which is what, 539 or whatever it is. But then again, I'm also concerned that, you know, Rick and the property owners kind of had a deal in place, and, you know, I'd sort of like to honor the handshake if there is one that exists.
Well, Brian, what I do is I run my numbers. I look at everything. I run my numbers, and then I go back to the property owner and I tell them what I had done and what my recommendation would be to the board. But you have the final say, and I let them know that. I make that clear to them that you make the final decision. So nothing is set in stone. There's no agreement until you take your vote.
I think before, this is Val, before we vote on this, I just would like to say that I think there's two separate issues, that the owner maybe made a mistake in paying too much money and maybe had the inspection done or not, or whatever that may be. And the other issue, this is separate than did the owner made a mistake. I think the other one is assessing the house as fair as we can. So if the house was assessed 100,000 more up until now, but you go now and you see the house is in poor shape, and then you assess the house as the value you think it is, Rick, but what you just did. So I guess we're dealing with two things here. I don't know if we need to focus on did the owner make a mistake. That's a separate issue. That's his problem. I think what we do have to think about as the board for assessors is, if the house is assessed at a fair value, then I think that's what we need to go by. I don't know if I'm speaking the right language here, but that's what I'm thinking. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yep, well
Absolutely.
described. For these buyers, it was the right choice for them. And there's some further notes here. Says the property was listed for $699,000. Where did my notes go? They paid $637,000. The home inspection revealed various deficiencies, but they liked the location. There was a good size plot of land. Come on, my notes keep disappearing on me. It had nice views. It was a large house, and they were willing to work on the deficiencies to have a great home in the end. It was worth the investment of money and time, I think.
Yeah, I think, but Rick, the other thing is, I think I do remember talking to you about this, is that when you are doing the valuation, you look at the house, you know, what the shape the house is in. And also you also look at the location, if they have the view, you know, stuff like that. So based on that, if the assessment has been done rightly or correctly, then I guess that's okay. I just wanted to make sure that while doing the assessment, all of those things had been taken into account.
Yes, they were.
Hi, this is Brian, and I feel pretty comfortable about that $540,000 number. You know, I think we ought to at least have it that low, but, you know, to get all the way down to $511,000, that's a little bit of a stretch for me.
Well, that takes into account a new current use application, I assume. Is that correct, Rick?
Well, no, there wouldn't be a new current use application, but the $511,000 is with the current use applied. So the market value is 539,300 without the current use applied. So Brian, I'm not sure which way you're looking at this, but you're essentially approving a market value of 539,310. If you approve my motion, if you approve my recommendation the way it is, you're approving a market value of $539,310, but the assessed value would be $511,540 with the current use applied.
What does the current use mean?
Current use is an open space program. So if there's sufficient land to go with the property, you can apply to put the land into current use, which means that the value of that open space land is greatly reduced for tax purposes. In exchange, the property owner promises not to develop that land. So it's a way to preserve open space. So
this is Frank, when they sell it, because I had some in current use, you have to pay a 10% penalty.
no, not when you sell it. If the land comes out of current use, then the 10% penalty applies. But it doesn't come out of current use if you transfer the property. You have to have 10 acres of open space land in order to at least 10 acres to qualify for the current use program. So this property has 13.5 acres. And they've got, so what cannot go into current use is what's known as the curtilage, which is the land that supports the structure. So it would be the land where the house is, it's the driveway, the lawn where their grass is, where they mow their grass, it's the well, the septic system. That land cannot go into current use. So it's all the excess land, and they've got 12.5 acres in current use. So 1 acre not in current use.
Hey, Rick, this is Brian. Is it the current property owners that did the current use thing?
No, this goes back many years. I'm not sure how far back, but it goes back many years.
So I guess what my next question is didn't the new property owners know about the current use when they purchased the property?
I don't know for certain if they did. I imagine they were told that the land was in current use. That's usually mentioned when the property is being listed for sale and being shown.
I guess I am okay with your explanation, Rick.
Would you like to make a motion, Val?
I make a motion to approve this.
Frank seconds.
Roll call. Barry?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Val?
Yes.
Jay is yes. Approved unanimously. Map lot 115/18. The assessor recommends that we deny the application on the basis that the tax rep did not use any of the recent comparable sales of convenience store, gas stations, or vacant land sales from within Lebanon and the region.
Frank moves to deny.
Do we have a second?
I wanted a little bit more explanation. Rick, do you have just a few minutes?
Sure. So this is the Sandry Mart. It's the gap. Somebody trying to speak? No.
Somebody on speakerphone or something?
This is the gas station convenience store right at the exit ramp from I-89 on Main Street, right in front of the Powerhouse Plaza.
Oh, South Main Street.
Right, yes.
So it's the Kmart Plaza one?
Right across the street from Kmart Plaza. Yep. So it's in front of the Shaw's in the 99. So it's right at the foot of the exit ramp from 89 North. And we have it assessed at, let's see, I think I have that here.
1,823,800.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had recommended a value of about $800,000. Yeah. And we have I think it's four recent sales of gas station convenience stores in Lebanon. They occurred a few years ago, but they're all up to $3 or $4 million. And some of those are in less desirable areas. So the tax representative for the owner provided sales of gas station convenience stores a long list, but those sales were from southern New Hampshire, from Massachusetts, Connecticut, I think New Jersey. But he ignored the four sales we had right here in Lebanon, and those sales would indicate a higher value than we have right now. And I provided the tax rep with a number of land sales and other commercial sales along 12A and along Miracle Mile to justify the $1.8 million. He just did not agree with what I presented to him. I'm confident in the $1.8 million. That is essentially the only gas station on that strip on South Main Street or 12A. The mobile station across the street has been closed for a number of years. BJ's opened a gas station not too long ago, but you have to be a member of BJ's to buy gas there, I believe. And this is the only gas station available to the public on that strip, and it's in a prime location right off the highway.
I mean, BJ's, you can purchase the gas even if you're not a member. You just won't get the member rate. But I agree with your recommendation, Rick, that's I think the lowest that I've heard of a gas station in our region. So I agree. I don't know where the 800,000 comes from. That's ridiculous.
This is Frank. For just since it hasn't been mentioned yet, I'll take and do it. This tax rep is a group of people who come around and they look at businesses like the gas station here and say, oh, we can save you lots of money. It won't cost you anything. We're going to take us whatever savings you get. And then they rarely do any work. They just hope that we're stupid enough to take their word.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll take a motion to approve the denial.
I made it to deny.
So the motion was made by Frank to deny and seconded by Val. Is that correct?
Correct. This is fine.
Okay, we'll go through the roll. Val?
Approve the denial.
Brian?
Yes.
Frank?
Deny.
Barry?
Yes.
Jay agrees, so it's unanimous denial of the application. Map lot 101/36 is recommended to deny for pretty much the same reason. The tax rep just didn't produce any kind of comparable sales to justify his argument.
Correct. And I had numerous emails and conversations with the tax rep to provide more information, and he never responded. I don't think I mentioned in my notes here, but the same tax representative, I think it was the same company, maybe not the same tax rep, but the same company, I believe, represented Becko Block about 2 years ago on an abatement application. And I reduced you approved the reduction of the assessed value at that time. That was based on the condition of the buildings on the property. So it was a little bit of a reduction in the assessed value at that time. And they agreed at that time that the reduced value was a proper value for the property. And now they're coming back and wanting it reduced even more when property values haven't declined at all in the last 2 or 3 years. But the tax rep had no response to that, had no argument against that. I mentioned that to him.
This is Frank. So they paid 2019 of value of, was it 1,450,000? What were they asking for 2020?
You lost me on that.
No, you're on the wrong one, Frank. You're on 20 West Park, I think. We're at
West Park,
Betco.
okay.
So
It's
Betco
still
block
100
is,
Well, it's still the same one. It's just they agreed for assessed value of 1,450,000 tax year 2019.
no,
But
that's,
now they're asking for a reduction, I assume, for 2020.
no, Frank, you're on the next one.
You're on the wrong app.
We're talking about Betco block.
Number 7.
It's assessed for $1,032,900. And that's the number they
okay.
agreed to a couple of years ago.
What do they want? This is fair. What did they want to drop it to?
Yeah, just pulling that up now. $547,000.
Vote to deny. The recommendation denied.
Okay, I see where I made my mistake. Where is this property?
This is off of Glen Road. This is the block plant. So if you go,
Oh, yeah.
you go under the tunnel, around the bend, it's down the road a little bit, and you go up there's a road that goes up the hill to the right.
Across from the powerhouse.
Yes.
Well, you can look down, yeah.
Rick, is this part of that Iron Horse development that they keep talking about?
I don't think this piece is part of that development, but it's next to it.
Okay.
It's the old block plan.
Yep.
Well, at least the tax rep has a good sense of humor. Does anybody have a motion?
Hi, this is Brian. I make a motion that we deny the request.
Frank seconds.
Sal? Sal,
Deny the application.
you deny. Barry?
Yes.
Frank? Frank?
Denied.
And then Brian?
Deny.
Jay is denied, so unanimously that application is denied. Map lot 91/232, assessor recommends denial on the basis that no proof was provided that the assessed value is disproportionate, and additionally, the property owner had signed a settlement agreement for the tax years 2016 through 2019, agreeing to the assessed value of $1,450,000 for the tax year 2019.
Is this the, Rick, is this the same guy that owns that property?
I'm sorry, that owns what?
That owns the mall?
This is owned by Richard Ballagher. He owns the Salt Hill building and the bank building that we're in now. So this one, number 8, 20 West Park Street, and the next one on the list, Godfrey Road Holdings, those are the 2 properties. So we reached an agreement last year, settlement agreement for tax years 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019. We've agreed to the assessed value of $1,450,000 for 20 West Park Street. I think there's a mistake on one of these. Let me check on that. One of them's $1,450,000, which I think is 20 West Park Street. And then the other one, the next one down, Godfrey Road Holdings, I think that they think that's $1,001,000, but I can check that. 91, 232, but,
Are these applications even valid on their face, Rick? Since we already have an agreement?
well, he can file the abatement application. And my guess is he'll probably appeal to either BTLA or Superior Court, but it's not going to go far when we have an agreement in place.
Yeah.
Well, the agreement ends in 2019, so his tax bill, is he asking for a deduction in the 2020 bill?
No, this is an abatement application for 2019, and that's
Oh,
the
well.
final year of the agreed value.
Oh,
So you, and
How
So-
can how can he do
what-
that if he agreed to 2019?
what's that?
How can he agree to do an abatement if he agrees to pay the taxes for 2019?
Yeah, well, that's a good question.
hey, Rick, this is Brian. Is there any material event that's happened to the property that would lower its value?
No,
Fire or something like that, or?
no,
I
no.
think-
This was these values are as of April 1st of 2019. So this is well before the pandemic. So we can't even claim that it's affected by the pandemic.
So do we have a motion to deny on the basis proposed by the assessor?
Frank moves to deny.
This is Brian, I second.
Barry,
Yes,
Frank,
Yes,
Brian,
Deny.
Val,
Deny.
and Jay denies as well. So unanimously, the application is denied. The next
Um,
one, lot,
no,
you go ahead.
before you-
Go ahead.
Jay, before you move on, who made the motion in the second?
Frank made the motion.
I made the second.
Okay.
This is Brian.
Okay. And one other thing, Jay, before we move on Rexpo, do you have who made the second on Rexpo Realty?
I didn't take a note of that. Does
Okay.
anybody remember who was the second?
on which one?
Rexpo Realty, block plant.
The first one that we had an issue with tax rep.
Wasn't that Frank?
Frank made the motion. I don't know who made the second.
Frank did.
I can find it. I'll go back on the recording and find it. So it's not an issue.
Okay, so map lot 91/233, the same sort of an issue. No
Yep.
proof that the assessed value is disproportionate, et cetera, et cetera.
You said what, Rick? It's 1.1?
He thinks.
Yeah, 1.1 million for Godfrey Road Holdings. That's the Salt Hill building.
Instead of 1.450.
Right. The Citizens Bank building that we're in is 1.45 million, and the Salt Hill building is 1.1 million.
And there's settlement agreement in place for this as well.
That's right.
Do we have a motion?
Hi, this is Brian. I'd move that we deny the request for abatement.
Do we have a second?
Frank seconds.
Barry,
Yes,
Brian,
Deny.
Val,
Deny.
Frank,
Deny.
Jay denies, so that's unanimous denial of the application. Map lot 111/11. Recommendation from the assessor is to deny based on the fact that the property owner argues that has no taxable real estate in Lebanon. So the applicant says that they have no taxable real estate in Lebanon, but in fact, they own a parcel of land on Dartmouth College Highway, and they're assessed for its use of the former railroad bed and run underground cables. So they say they got no property, but according to the assessor, they do.
Rick, is this the one where they're not paying for the lines on the telephone poles? Is that what's going on?
No, that's a different company.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Jay,
Yeah,
does your memory come back that this seems like something we've done, solved once before that said no?
probably.
Yeah,
It certainly looks familiar.
yep. Well, I'm gonna move to deny it.
This is Barry. I'm going to second it.
Val,
Deny.
Ryan,
Deny.
Brian,
Deny.
Barry,
Tonight.
Jay, also deny unanimously. The application is request is denied. Map lot 92/122, recommendation is to approve. The owner argues that the equalization ratio should be applied, and the city assessor agrees to be consistent with similarly applied values, that the ratio should be applied here as well.
Yeah, and this, some of you might remember and some probably don't know, but there was some legislation 2 or 3 years ago that took place on how to value the poles and conduits for phone companies and electric companies. What's not written into the legislative language is that the equalization ratio should be applied to those numbers. So I never applied the ratio to the numbers. I just took the raw numbers that are generated through this formula that was devised through the legislature and applied that to the tax bill. And a lot of assessors and even the phone company at first thought that was correct, but when more thought was given to it, we discovered that we should be applying the equalization ratio to those numbers. So when I apply the ratio, right now we have an assessed value of $2,065,100 for the poles and conduits for Northern New England Telephone. Applying the ratio reduces that down to $1,862,680. So a difference of about $200,000. And I checked with the Department of Revenue, state of New Hampshire. I checked with the utility appraiser, and they were all in agreement that the equalization ratio should be applied to that value.
What we're voting on is the ratio.
Barry, we couldn't hear you. What did you say?
My question is, so we're voting on the ratio, not the value.
Well, yeah, and I mistakenly didn't put in a value to approve in my recommendation. So my recommendation is to reduce the value for the poles and conduits from $2,065,100 down to $1,862,680.
And Rick, what is the equalization ratio for?
That tells us where our assessed values are related to current market value. So what happens is we have to revalue once every 5 years. And in that revaluation, we bring property values to market value. So right now we're dealing with 2015 market values. So since then, property values have increased. So we take, when properties sell, we take the assessed value divided by the sale price, and that gives us our ratio. So the ratio that's being applied to this is 90.1%. So it gets a little more complicated, but 90% is what was determined to be our ratio, our assessed values to market value at the time.
So what you're saying is that the property was assessed higher than what the market value was.
Well, no, it was assessed at market value for 2019, but we have to apply the ratio to bring it back down to 2015 market values so that we're consistent with all the other properties in town.
So right now, all the other properties are assessed at 2015 value.
Right.
When does the 2019 comes in?
Well, so what happens is we keep all the properties at 2019 market values until our next revaluation, which is what I'm working on now. So
Okay.
when I'm done with the revaluation in another month or so, we'll bring all the market values for every property in town up to 2020 values, market values.
Okay.
Rick, this is Brian. So this means that it's only a temporary dip in revenue as far as these utility poles go? Because won't the value increase, over the 5-year period?
Essentially, yes. But what I need to do is from now on, I'll apply that ratio each year. I'll apply the appropriate ratio to that value. So what happens is the state of New Hampshire, the Department of Revenue comes up with the market values every year. They say, okay, here's the value for the poles. It's now $1,000 brand new. Each pole is $1,000 brand new. And then they determine the depreciation rate as well. And we dump that into a formula in the spreadsheet, and we come up with the value for each pole, because we have to look at the age of the pole. So a brand new pole in 2020 might be $1,000, but we've got poles out there that go back to the 1920s. So we say, okay, this pole in 2020 is $1,000, but we have to depreciate it down because this is an old pole. So now it's only worth, because it's so old, it's only worth $100. So we do that to every pole. We start off with $1,000 or whatever the cost is. We start off with that brand new and then depreciate every individual pole. So then we come up with a total value. Let's say you have a total, well, in this case, we have a total value of $2 million. And then we apply the ratio to that. Does that answer your question?
Right, but this is Brian again, but doesn't that mean in another year that equalization rate goes to like 100%?
Yes, for this year, our ratio will go up to 100%. So for this year, we haven't finalized the numbers yet for this year, but I will in another month or so. Whatever that formula is that the state comes up with, whatever they determine to be market value, that is what we'll use. We'll not apply the equalization ratio this year. Next year, we'll have to apply it again.
So this could technically be accepted here.
Can't hear you, Barry.
Technically, this year's temporary, it could be a temporary drop.
Yeah, this is a 1-year abatement, if that's what you're asking.
With all that, I move to accept the approval.
Hi, this is Brian. I second the motion.
Sal,
Yes, prove it.
Frank,
Yes,
Brian,
Approve.
Barry,
Yes.
Jay agrees. All in favor? Is unanimous? No, it's unanimous. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. So it's approved unanimously. So the next one is tax lot map lot number 194/25 for the 2018 year tax year. And it's just a housekeeping correction of a conversion error within the assessing system. So without a great deal of conversation about that, maybe we have a motion to approve.
Mary, I move to accept the approval.
I second it. This is Pal.
Brian,
Approve.
Frank,
Yes,
Fal,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes,
Jay is yes, unanimously approved. Veterans credits. The assessor recommends approval of all of the applications.
Let me find the attached, find the list. There we go. Yeah, that's probably the easiest thing to do is do a blanket. I'm hoping we can do a blanket motion on this. We've got, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
there are three, this is Frank, there are three that are in a different color. I think we need to handle those separately.
Under the veterans or under the elderly?
No. Somewhere I don't have that particular one, so,
I think the veterans were approving all of those.
Correct.
yes.
Do we have a motion
yeah,
to approve that?
I move.
Barry's making the motion to approve.
Frank seconds.
Was that Frank?
Yeah, Frank
Frank
seconds.
seconded. Val,
Yes.
Ryan,
Approve.
Barry,
Yes,
Frank,
Yes,
Jay approves unanimously. Under the elderly exceptions, we have a list, and we have some that are recommended, that are in black text, and we have some that are recommended for denial in red text. Can we simply attach that to the documentation for this meeting, Rick, and make a motion to accept your recommendations?
Yes.
Okay,
I've got a question. This is
Go ahead.
Brian.
Yeah,
What was the income level that, the elderly exemption cut off at?
We just changed that back in, I think it was November. For a single applicant, the income limit is $36,800. And for a married couple, it used to be the same income limit for a married couple, but we increased that last fall to, I believe it's $50,000 for a married couple.
No.
There's also an asset limit of $100,000. So you'll see, if you have that list in front of you, you'll see that three of the applicants were over the income limit and over the asset limit.
Okay. Thank you for the explanation.
do we have a motion to accept the assessor's recommendation?
This is Brian. I move that we accept the assessor's recommendation.
This is Pal. I second it.
Barry? Barry? Frank?
yes,
Val?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Jay votes yes. Barry, you're not there?
yes, yes.
You're yes? Okay, so it's unanimous then. Very good. Institutional exemptions. Frank, you're the vice chair and I need to leave for another meeting. Are you able to take over from here?
I hope so.
Well, I'll leave you in your competent and capable hands.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jay.
Thanks, Jay.
Which
All right,
ones
so-
are the
On the institutional exemption,
institutional?
The My recommendation is to approve all of the institutional exemptions except for 3 that are in red. That's Grafton Regional Development Corporation and 2 properties for Upper Valley Habitat for Humanity.
Okay, can you explain why?
Yep, on the Grafton Regional Development Corporation, they do not own, they do not occupy and use the property. They own the property, but they lease it out to other companies. And the statute states that they have to own and occupy it.
Right,
And then on the Upper Valley Habitat, it's the same thing. It's, I believe those are the single family homes. I'll check on that they do not, oh, no, one's a single family home that they rent out and the other one's a vacant parcel. Check on that though, make sure.
any questions? I'll get a motion.
I've got a question. I noticed that there was quite a list there of like Dartmouth College properties on the exemption list.
Yep.
I know that, you know, Dartmouth College, it's kind of hard to figure out, you know, whether they're due for an abatement or not because of the nature of the property. You know, some of it's for education and other parts of it, you know, they use for other purposes. You know, I think of, you know, for example, the Hanover Inn.
Yep.
But, you know, do we look at that at all, Rick, or do we just kind of go with the flow?
Yes, we look at that. They do own a number of parcels, properties in town that are not exempt.
Okay,
so those are not on the list.
So out of all the property that Dartmouth owns in the city of Lebanon, how much are they paying us for tax revenue?
That's hard to say because it's broken down. There's Dartmouth College and there's Dartmouth Hitchcock Hospital. I can get you a number, but it would take, I can't give it to you now. It takes a lot of work to figure out what they're paying in taxes. And then on some of the Dartmouth Hitchcock property, it's tax exempt, but they have a payment in lieu of taxes. So they pay, I think it's a couple of $1 million a year. If I remember correctly, a couple of $1 million a year.
Over $1 million, but it's, I think it's, if it's not renewed soon, which I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, yeah, that's another thing. The pilot agreement expires at the end of this year. We are working on that. We are negotiating, and I expect that to be wrapped up sometime soon, probably within the next several weeks.
I guess, Rick, one of the things that concerns me is, you know, I was just reading some, you know, article the other day, and they said that the Dartmouth College, you know, endowment fund was all the way up to $5.5 billion.
Yeah.
So, you know, I know that there's been some legislation proposed in Congress where they start talking about taking away some of those exemptions.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it's the sort of thing that we're going to have to be a little bit careful about it. You know, trying to get some tax revenue and at the same time staying in the good graces of Dartmouth College.
Yep. Yeah, but until they change the state statutes, we have to follow, as I'm sure you know, we have to follow the current laws. And the current laws, no matter how much they have for an endowment, allow them to apply for these exemptions and receive them if they meet the requirements, and they do.
Okay.
So are we making the move to accept and deny both things on the institutional exemption?
Go ahead, Frank.
Oh, go ahead.
On the last one, the motion was to approve my recommendation. So I suppose you could do the same thing here, or approve all of the institutional exemptions with the exception of Grafton Regional Development and Upper Valley Habitat, whichever way you want to phrase it.
That was the question. I move to accept the approvals, and I move to accept the denials. on the institutional exemptions.
This is Brian. I second that.
Okay, Brian,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes,
and I'm afraid I forgot the third name.
Val,
Val?
Val?
FAL.
Yeah.
Yep. This is Pal, yes.
Yeah,
I
and-
approve
and
and
Frank.
deny that.
Yes. So motion carries.
we have E as in residential and commercial or industrial zone.
Yeah, and there are 6 properties. They're on the same list, a little further down, same list as the institutional exemptions. There are 6 properties, and my recommendation is to approve all 6.
This is the one that's, okay, this is the residence and industrial commercial zone. If we charge them full price for the land, they would be poor.
Yes, they'd be paying far more than if they receive this exception.
Yeah.
And these are all existing properties that have been in this program for a number of years now. So they have to apply every year. This is just a renewal.
This is Barry. I move to accept the
Did I hear a
This is-
motion? Did I hear a motion first? I didn't. Who made the motion to accept?
Barry did.
Barry.
I move to this and Val seconded.
And who seconded?
And this is Pal, I made a second.
Okay, we're ready to vote then.
Brian?
Yes.
Yeah. Barry,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Motion carries.
Next one is the application for prorated assessments for damaged buildings, and there are 2 applications. The first one is the Alteria Hotel on Route 120. That's the one that had the explosion and the fire.
Yep.
And the building now is condemned. What happened essentially is that when the explosion occurred, it pushed some high pressure through the entire building and just kind of expanded it like a balloon and damaged the structure. So it's condemned. They may have concluded their test by now, but I was out there back in May and they were actually running tests on the structure. And they weren't sure. They may have to tear the entire structure down. If not, it's going to take some extensive repairs. But my recommendation is to approve the application for the prorated assessment. So on a prorated assessment, what we do is we reduce the value of the structure as of the date of the fire or the damage that occurred. And then we prorate the taxes based on that date.
I move to accept. Barry?
Motion's been made and seconded.
Who was the second? Was there a second?
I can second it. This is Pal.
Okay.
All those in favor? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Brian,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
and Frank says yes. Motion carries.
All right. The
We
next
have
one.
have another one now. His house was damaged by fire. Same thing.
Yes.
We have a motion.
We didn't do both together?
No, we just did
No.
Alteria first.
All right, well, I move to accept, lot 119-46, the approval.
This is Pal, I second it.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Any comments, questions? Okay, Brian,
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
and Frank says yes. Motion carries. Any other items that we need to discuss?
I believe that's it.
You did the approval of the governor's emergency order.
We did that at the beginning of the meeting.
Could I say that of all my years on the board, set a record today of how long this is going to take? But anyway, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
One thing first, the signature items,
Oh,
if I get your permission, I got the stamps here in the office. I can stamp these for you. But I'll need all four of you to permit me to do that.
I allow you to use my stamp, Rick. This is Pal.
This is Barry. You have my approval to use my stamp.
This is Brian. You have my approval.
Yeah, for Brian, I guess what I'll have to do is, I don't have a stamp for you. We'll have to get one. But what I'll do is I'll sign it and initial it with your approval.
That's fine.
Frank agrees to have you use his stamp.
Okay. All right, I think that's it.
Great.
All right.
A motion to
All right.
adjourn.
All right. See you later, everybody.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
Rick.
everybody.
And nice to virtually see you, Brian.
Pardon?
Welcome aboard, Brian.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you very much, crew.
Okay, I think we have to vote to adjourn. So
Yeah. So
Brian,
who-
I move that we adjourn.
Barry,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
and Frank. Yeah.
so who,
Thank you all very much.
wait, who made the motion? Who seconded it? Was there a motion in second?
You can put my name down. I made the motion to adjourn.
Val.
Okay. All right, I think we're good.
Okay.
Okay.